How are you doing today, sir?
Very good. Tired, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's what happens in the middle of a shoot. What day are you in production?
I don't know.
Do you know when you wrap?
At the end of next week, I think. And then we have another 2 weeks in November because I wait for the autumn.
What is that like for your actors when they have to pause filming and then sort of come back?
It's okay because the scene in autumn is in the 14th century anyway. So, so we finished the 19th century and he will go back to 14, so it's okay.
Jumping into this, I have a few generics that I want to ask you, but what was it about this story, the Dracula story, that said, I want to make this movie?
I think there's some versions were wonderful. The Coppola's version that I love at the time when I watch it the first time. But there's one element that that I miss all the time, that I feel in the book. It's the love story. So for me, it's the ultimate love story. A man who will wait 400 years to see the return of his wife, and he has to wait for 400 years. It's just the ultimate love story for me. And that's for me more the angle. So of course there is some blood
Sure.
and some monsters and things, but the main thing is the love story.
So there's going to be people out there who actually are not familiar with the Dracula story.
Good.
Exactly. What do you want to tell those people who have not read the book and don't know the story?
It takes me 2 hours to say it in the movie. No, it's just about the devotion of his man. He loves his wife. It's his only wife. He loves her since day one. And God took her. And then he wants to punish God.
So one of the things about that is the Dracula has been portrayed in movies a number of times. I'm curious, for your version, is it like a grounded, realistic version? Is it a heightened version? Is it a fantasy type version?
I love when you are at the border of it. Like it looks real, and it's totally fake.
Sure.
I love that. I love to flirt with that. Like you wondering, is it coming from a true story, or is it? I love that. I love to play with that. So it's not totally fantasy. No one flying with a cape, for example, but it looks real. The locations, we shot in Palais Royal and a couple of nice places in Paris, and the studio, the set designer make a great job. And so you believe in everything. That's the magic for me.
One of the biggest moments of the movie is his transformation, his making a deal with the devil, if you will. You know what I mean? How did you envision designing how he would sort of sell himself, or you know what I mean?
He doesn't make a deal with the devil, in fact. He banished God from his life. And God gives life, but God can also give death or forbid you to die. So that's his punishment. Say, okay, so you're not going to die. That's his punishment. And everybody wants to be eternal, but after 400 years, you kind of like, you want to die. You want to leave.
Yeah, I have often wondered what it would be like to live that long, the pros and the cons.
Probably boring, I think, after a while. But what's interesting is he still have this hope. And so many times during the story, he thinks he's going to see the reincarnation of his wife, and he doesn't. And then he has to wait again. So he goes by the hope, by the desperation. Then he wants to finish, he wants to kill himself, but he cannot. So we see the upside down all the time for 4 centuries. And it was so interesting to play with the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century, like different costume, different places, different hair, different everything. So I think there is not one Dracula in the film, there is like 21, I think. 21 and that's where Caleb is amazing for that. He's a chameleon.
I'm curious about that. The movie is 2 hours long, or give or take, whatever the movie ends up being.
Not 3 hours, I promise.
Of course. But how much time do you spend in the 15th century? And like you mentioned, showing him going through time, and then ultimately you end up in the 19th century.
I don't know exactly, but it's kind of like a good equilibrium. And most of the time it's flashback, and he tell a little bit of the story on the 15, and then we come back to the 19. But basically it starts on 14 for, I will say, the first act. And then we go to 19 and back to the past all the time.
We are sitting in an amazing set. So for people that are watching, what do you want to tell people about this set?
It's a crypt in Carpathian Mountains in Romania. And it's actually the real painting from real chapel in Romania that we copy. And it's painted by hand. All the golden halo are painted by hand. And it's I try to shoot in Romania in the real, but it's too hard. It's too hard, too difficult, and it's really precious. So I was scared to damage it. So we redo it here.
Do you spend a lot of time in this set in the movie?
In this one, we spent a week in it. So lots of things. Yeah, we see it at the 14th century, at the 19th century. We see so now it's the 19th century version. So it's a little wounded and greasy and lots of spider webs and.
Talk a little bit about you cast Christoph Waltz as the priest. What can you tease people about his character?
He's not a normal priest. He's very sneaky in a way. He has a little bit of Sherlock Holmes, a little bit. You know, he knows how to navigate between the rules of the government, the church. He's playing with the rules. You know, he's on the border. Because what happened to have this source of empirism somewhere in Europe, almost no one believed it. But he knows, because his congregations are fighting them since 400 years. So he's in charge of, finding the source. And he never find a vampire alive. So it's the goal in his life is to at least, have one. And so maybe he will find one and be able to talk with him. And the talk between a vampire and him is very interesting.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. Caleb is such a good actor, and Christoph is such a good actor. When you put the two of them together in a movie, you obviously need to have a scene, at least one, where it's them two going head to head.
Yeah.
And verbally, I'm sure that's going to be great. What is it like writing that dialogue and making the audience root for sort of both sides?
By the way, it's today.
Are you shooting that today?
Yeah, the first time they met together.
Right.
So, in the crypt.
I obviously had no idea. But I am curious, what is it like writing that scene?
I think it's not taking a position. I'm ruling for both of them. And I just want to basically to say to both of them, guys, I love you both. Good luck. And they try to convince each other. That's why it's interesting. The priest tried to make him understand that he's here to help. And Dracula think that he's here to kill him. So now they have to explain each other, to understand each other.
Is there a way for the two of them to work together, or not at all?
No.
Right. Okay, what are, if you don't mind sharing, there's always rules in a Dracula movie or a vampire movie about what can kill someone, weaknesses, strengths. What can you say about your version in terms of powers, if you will?
No, I try to respect few rules. The common rules of Dracula. He's sleeping in a coffin.
Sure.
To kill him, you have to put take a hammer and a silver nail and put him on his heart and cut his head. So that's the classical thing. But for the rest, I try to not to play with it, but to serve the storytelling. So I'm using only what serve the purpose. Like, for example, on the book, he transforms as a bat, or he's walking on the wall, or it can be a green fog. I don't want to use that too much because it makes it too fantastic, and I try to stay focused on the love story, and the movie is very emotional, in fact.
Well, that's what I was getting at earlier in the conversation with the fact that it could be the grounded version, and it also could go more fantasy.
Yeah, I'm not going to fantasy, pure fantasy. I'm not doing a version for kids, PG-13, so they can take their popcorn quietly.
So
I want them not to eat. To have the popcorn here.
I'm assuming this is an R-rated version.
Not sure.
Oh, so it could go either way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be at the limit. There's a few scenes where it's a little, it's a little bloody, but it's not the main thing. It's not the main thing.
Is it one of those things where you almost want to shoot it you want to shoot it the way you're going to shoot it, and then in the editing room you can figure out what does the film need?
No, I'm going to edit the way I want, and people will tell me, oh, this is rated R. Or, oh, that's okay, we can do PG-13. And then if we're not far, we will choose. But it's definitely not a gory film,
Sure.
Rated R with blood everywhere, and no, it's not.
Talk a little bit about, I saw the photo of Caleb in the armor. It looked fantastic. Talk a little bit about how you wanted that armor to look, and what were your inspirations working with your costume designer?
What was interesting is more than 20 years ago, I did Joan of Arc, and where we have like 200 armors everywhere. And at the time I met this English guy, he was 30 years old, he was a young guy, and he made an amazing job. And then 25 years later, I call back and say, are you still there? And he say, yes, so he's a little older now, he has gray hair. And he did the armor, so we work again together. And it's the same inspiration, to look at the real armor from the time and to make it a little bit different, just at the limit of the fantasy.
Sure.
For example, Dracula in Romanian, Dracul is a dragon. So his helmet is a head of a dragon. And everybody, the Ottomans who fighting him at the 14th century, they call him the Dragon of Carpathian, because they think that he can spray fire because of the helmet. So there's a couple of good elements. We try to play with that.
What is it like? Caleb is known for spending a lot of time to get ready to play a role. What is it like directing Caleb, and how much do you know about how he's going to do the voice and all that stuff before he steps on set? How much is he telling you, here's my voice? Or is it sort of a surprise when you first see it?
No, we try to find the voice together for a month. So he has a coach, a Romanian coach, to see how he can, But he doesn't have the same voice in the 19th century than the 14th. It's different. There's a moment where he's 400 years old. So we have to find the voice, and little by little, okay, try deeper, less accent, more accent. And then there's a moment where he find it, and then we try to, to keep it at least when he's 400 years old. And it's very, very low. And he do this little gymnastic before we say action. He try to find the voice. So he has to do that for 20 seconds before we shoot all the time. And but what's interesting is he got the Romanian accent 4 months ago, and you must be aware that he's going to speak with a Romanian accent when he talk to you, because he keep it all the time because he's scared to lose it, in fact.
Sure. Well, what is it like when you have someone who is going, I don't want to say method, but a little method? How much is that impacting the shooting schedule and where you're shooting certain sequences?
No.
Or not at all?
No, not at all. We're friends also now, so we talk to each other a lot. And what about this? What do you think about this? What about this? And it's a real exchange. We're really building together, and the more we go, the more I can adapt. So when we come to the shoot, we know what to do. There's not so much discussion on set, in fact. We know everything before. And then we went for a rehearsal almost 3 weeks together, plus Zoe, the princess. We went for 3 weeks, far from everyone, just about the text, the situation. All the questions were asked at the time. So when we come, boom, we shoot.
What are you thinking about for music in the movie? Are you thinking about a contemporary score, a old orchestra?
To be honest, I will think about it in 2 weeks.
Sure.
No, for now, it's not now for me to think about it. There's some music that I have on my phone and I'm listening that inspired me, who are probably not good for the film, but a good inspiration. The last album of Billie Eilish, for example, and I'm just listening on loop, and it's exactly the mood that I need for the movie. So, but does the songs will go in the movie? No, it will be strange. But the mood.
Her and her brother are talented and have done a lot of music for movies. Maybe give them a call.
I would love. I mean, they're so big now, I don't think they will take my call, but I will try.
I actually don't know if that's true.
I will try.
Yeah, you might as well. It can't hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
What's the worst that happens?
And by the way, the last album, I always love all the albums, but the last one is really amazing. It's so...
I've been fortunate to talk to both of them. They're incredibly nice people.
Good.
You know, they're just really, really nice.
Okay. I promise I will try.
Yeah, why not? I'm curious about the look of the film and how you've worked with your cinematographer. I apologize for not knowing the name off the top of my head, but in designing what you wanted the film to look like, the color scheme, are certain sequences in the past different colors? You know, talk a little bit about that.
It took a lot of time, lots of work. I sent him and the chief electrician to the museum because I want them to, you know, take in their mind the painting from the 15, 16, the German, the Holland painting, just to get inspired. Because now when you see, there is a lot of TV series now who goes pretty fast, and I'm not saying they do a bad job, it's a good job, but it's not like art, you know, so let's go back to the source. Let's go. We're very lucky in Paris. We have so many museums. So we went to all of them and tried to get the food from there, you know. So I don't know how it's going to be set up in the film, but that's what we eat for weeks. We eat paintings in museum. So I hope it will, you know, you will see it a way or another. I don't know exactly. I'm not saying I'm not taking a painting and say, I want this light. But just to see how the painter at the time construct their light, you know, that's interesting, because it's very hard to do in a movie.
One of the things about this is you're obviously, I heard you're going to be shooting a big action set piece later this year. So talk a little bit about what the action set piece is and where it fits in the film.
In November, it's the Ottomans who invade Europe in the 14th century, and the Christians try to stop them, and they ask the Count Dracula, because he's Prince of Wallachia and he has an army, and so he tried to stop them, which is in the book, by the way. So that's a big battle where he's gonna kill in the name of God.
Sure.
And then the next 2 weeks it's the finale of the movie. So it's in the castle, and there's also a big fight. What
do you think will surprise fans once they've seen the movie to like learn about the making of the movie? Is there anything unique about this shoot, or are all films sort of very similar, just unique problems on each one?
Yeah, I think it's all the movies now are so technical that they always complicate. What the hardest thing is to keep the wire of the storytelling and the emotional journey of the character. That's where it's the most difficult to remember, okay, at this time, this is how he feel, and this is where it need to go, because there's so many shots and so many technical things to resolve that sometimes you forgot I give you a stupid example. The guy is running in the street, and then he comes the apartment, and he's not breathing because it takes 3 months before you shoot outside and inside. Sure. So everyone forgot that the guy was running, so he should be like this, and they open the door. Hi. So this kind of, I give a stupid example, but that's the most difficult, is to keep it, emotionally logical.
Or just like, I don't think a lot of people realize the importance of a script supervisor and just trying to, as you just said, just keeping everything so the audience never falls out of believing what they're watching.
Yeah, that's very, and that was very difficult for, it's the second time I work with Caleb. So this one, he has 20 different characters on 400 years. So it's very hard for him to keep the emotional link. So I have the feeling he trusts much more me on this one, because he said, okay, leave that to Luc because I get lost between the period. So, and I'm very, very focused on that. I try to never let him down, to be sure that I'm holding it and it's the right thing to do or the right thing to express.
One of the things I think that really helps a movie is when there is a break in filming, so it allows a director and a production to look at all the footage, and when they go back to shoot, like when you're shooting later this year, you can see if you missed anything. Can you sort of talk, do you feel like this helps the movie?
No, I mean, I spend my weekend at the editing since 3 months. Sure. All the time. You're obliged to do that because of the period changes, because the period change all the time. So you're really obliged to go to the editing and to be sure that, you have a shot, like you go from one shot to 1 century and then you turn it's another century. So you need to be sure that it goes right to left, or, and the value of the shot is good, the light is good. So I go to the editing, and every night the editors send me the pieces, and then we can correct. There is 2 times where I say, okay, let's redo this shot. It will fit better, but it happens twice only, so it's good.
On that note, sir, I really appreciate you letting me visit you while you're filming, and I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you. Hopefully, Caleb will not attack me when he sits down.
Put your hands here when you make the interview.
Right, exactly.
Okay.